Manchester United fans, thank you very much for joining us again today on the Manchester United Fans Circle podcast. Now we have a lot of things to get through today. Obviously, there was a couple of results that took place. There's a couple of games that took place and a couple of results that United have had since the last podcast. So that we'll be going over that today and discuss really what's been going on at United and what's been happening with the team and the results that we've obtained obviously over the past couple of games. Now, to say the least, it's been kind of an up and down week since we last done this podcast. So we've had the Fenerbahce game, which we won, and I thought that was obviously a very solid result. But having looked back at that game, I was still a little bit unconvinced by our performance. Now, a lot of fans might want to call me out on this one. A lot of fans might say, well, I'm crazy for having such an opinion. But let's look at the facts here. If you look back at that game and look back at what we did in that game, we scored 2 goals off 2 penalties. Now, yes, they were absolutely 100%, they were penalties, no doubt about that. But those were the 2 goals. So those were the 2 open goals. And then we had 2 goals which were absolute just screamers from Pogba and Lingard. Pogba's one a little bit more so than Lingard's one. Lingard's one was a pretty good finish, but Pogba's was certainly just, kind of smashed it and bang. It was a lovely goal, great goal. I was concerned with the way we approached the game in terms of the chances that we created chances that we did try to create. It's kind of like I'm always interested in watching our build-up play at United. The kind of like working it into the box, working into working out good chances for the strikers, for Ibrahimovic up front, that sort of thing. But again, that's not to say that I wasn't pleased with that result. I was 100% pleased with that result. It was a great result, and unfortunately, after that we just could not carry on to the next game, which brings me to the Chelsea game. Now, that was an absolute disaster, and honestly, I think that what that game came down to, if you hear a lot of pundits talk about the game after the game was over, you will see that the number one thing that they said was that you can look at the motivation of each set of players, that's the United players and the Chelsea players, and you can see that the motivation within the Chelsea players was just that much higher than the United players. And I think that ultimately came down to the Chelsea players just trying to prove to Jose Mourinho that they weren't the problem, that he was the problem, that they were looking at him like, this is us, this is what we can do, and you're the one that should be blamed for what happened to you last season, when they left and when they had that horrendous start that ultimately led to Jose's sacking. And essentially it came down to them just wanting it more than us. Now, we obviously did not help ourselves with the mistakes that we made. It was just a horrendous game altogether. It was one of those ones where just all you can do is just look back at the tape. The next morning at training, you look back at the tape of the game and you just go over mistakes, and you can spend a whole day just analysing the mistakes of the game. It was that horrendous, it was that bad. And now then, after that game, we obviously moved on. Now, I just wanted to talk about the Stoke game that happened this past weekend. Today this podcast is being recorded on the Monday. It will be going up tonight. So it's obviously looking back at the weekend. The Saturday game we played against Stoke, and that was probably the most frustrating game of football I have ever witnessed as a fan. It was just unbelievably frustrating. I think the stat sheet ultimately showed that we had 37 shots on goal. I think something like that. It was incredible, the amount of shots that we had on goal and the amount of chances that we had. Ibrahimovic, for one reason or another, has just been very, very poor lately. A lot of United fans have been calling for Marcus Rashford to step up and play that, playing that role, the centre striker role. I think let's hold the bus on that. Look, I want Marcus Rashford to play up front as much as the next guy, absolutely. but we need to give it a little bit of a rest, with Ibra. It's essentially coming down to now a lack of confidence. Now, I know that's a pretty, kind of stupid thing to say when it comes to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's the only football player in the world who will tell you how great he is, go out on the pitch, score a hat-trick, and will show you how great he is. He's that kind of guy. He is that kind of player. He is special. And that's what we bought him at United. It's not just about the skill set of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It was about the persona. It's about him being a leader, and him being just an absolute world-class player. Now he's, I think, now reaching 35, going on to 36. I'm not 100% sure of his age. He might be 34, going on 35. Don't quote me on that. But he is obviously advancing up there in age, but his skill set has definitely not diminished. I will not have that. People saying, Zlatan's skill set has diminished. Absolutely not. It's crazy to even think about it like that. It's just absolutely crazy to think about Zlatan Ibrahimovic losing his at least losing his touch or his finishing ability. Tom Heaton in the Burnley goal had a magnificent game against us, and look, is it because he was an ex-United player and he wanted to come to Old Trafford and show what the club was missing? I don't think so. I mean, look, maybe there is a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think he is England's third choice keeper. There's a reason for that. A lot of people say, there's lack of talent, that sort of thing. I think he's a pretty good goalkeeper. He is a good, solid Premier League goalkeeper, Tom Heaton, and he just had a really great game against us. And to be honest, I mean, we did not help ourselves. We really didn't. Tom Heaton made great saves. Now, if I can remember, against Ibra, against Ibrahimovic, that would, when Ibra was kind of like through, he wasn't through on goal, but he had a good angle on him, and he came out. The keeper, Tom Heaton, just came out and quickly scuffed away Ibra's shot. The other shot, obviously, the other one where he almost broke his hand trying to save Ibra's shot. He also had a great save from Jesse Lingard. He stopped. There was another chance as well where Ibra, I can't remember who he played. I think it was Mata. He played it back to Mata, and he made a great save with his feet. And then once again with, I think it was Herrera's shot or another Jesse Lingard shot. He had a really great game against us. Bottom line is the goalkeeper was man of the match, hands down, and that's really something that that was the difference maker. However, having said that, let's get to the part of the game where a lot of fans criticised Ibrahimovic for. The chance where Pogba crossed into the box, in a absolutely beautiful ball into the box, and Zlatan just could not finish it. It was a tap. I mean, it was there. That was the game there and then. It was just begging to say, Zlatan, go on, win the game for United. And he just skied it. He just, it was 2-3 yards out. Now, obviously, he may have not anticipated the ball coming in, as such. But I mean, come on, it's Zlatan Ibrahimovic. You expect him for the amount of money. I'm sorry, but for the amount of money that he's making per week or per month or whatever it is, he's obviously on a lot of money. He's obviously on a big wage. You'd expect him to put away that type of chance, and you should. Every United fan should expect Zlatan to score that without a shadow of a doubt. But it's now 4 games for Zlatan, I think, where he hasn't scored. It's either 4 or 5 games. I think it's 4 games. And it's now, obviously, there's a growing concern about his confidence. But like I said at the beginning, when I was talking about his confidence, this is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. You can never ever say, this guy is short on confidence, because I don't think he'll ever be on short on confidence. I think what it is right now, he's just going through a bit of a rot, and it's kind of like, it happens. It's a period where players will go a couple of games with it, strikers especially, they'll go a couple of games without scoring goals, and it's not about losing that touch, but it's just about things not happening for you. Zlatan has already proven in this league that he can score goals, and he will score again. I fully expect him to get somewhere near around 20 goals for United this season, maybe 19, 18, could be 20, 21, around that margin, in and around the 20 20 goal marker this season for us. And I mean, look, it is wishful thinking. Obviously, as a United fan, I do wish that he would just go on to score that many goals. Could it happen? I can see it happening, and I wish it will happen. But also, I can at the same time I can see Jose, maybe waiting a couple of games and just looking at Zlatan the same way that he looked at Wayne Rooney, and the same way that he's approaching the situation with Wayne Rooney, and kind of just, he'll just say to him, look, I need to sit you down for a couple of games. I need to see what's going on with the team, and maybe start Marcus or Anthony Martial up front. It's one of those things where maybe we need a little bit more pace in the team to create more chances for ourselves. I mean, listen, if you can't score from 37 chances, you're not really going to go far, are you? In this league, this is a Premier League. It is a punishing league. It's a league where you need to take every single chance that you get. Having said all of that, Jose does love Ibra. Will he drop him? I'm not really sure. I think he's a big fan of Marcus Rashford. He's been playing him, I think, in nearly every single game so far. Maybe a couple where he sat on the bench, but he's been playing for the majority of games. But Marcus, I think, will still be a winger for the time being. He's just turned 19. Today's his birthday. Just turned 19 years old. So he's but Marcus is definitely one of those guys that are now starting to slowly but surely establish himself as one of the guys in that United team where you just cannot drop him. He's a certain starter. However, that's the debate about starting Marcus Rashford up front or dropping Ibra. That can go on for ages and ages. There's so many dynamics that can be included in this debate. But I think Ibra for the time being will remain our striker up front, the main man up front. Just because Jose is such a big fan of his, and he loves obviously his confident, swagger and the way he approaches the game and his quality, his touch on the ball, his finishing ability, all of that. And he is a world-class player. Let's not kid ourselves. He will eventually start to bang them in again, as I said before. Now, let's move on to Jose himself. It's been a shaky start. It's been now I think 10 games into the Premier League era of Jose Mourinho as Manchester United manager. 10 games in, and it's definitely been a shaky start. In fact, David Moyes and Louis van Gaal had better starts as United managers than Jose has had, but that it's ridiculous to even question whether or not United need to stick with Jose. In fact, any fans out there who are questioning whether or not Jose Mourinho needs to remain as United manager, please just do yourself a favour and just be quiet for now. Honestly, I mean, it's ridiculous. Listen, this season, or any season in the Premier League or any league around the world, it's a marathon. It's not a race, it's a marathon. Right now I think we're sitting on 15 points. The top team, City, are sitting on 23. Now, 8 points behind the top is obviously can be looked at as a daunting thing. But we're not in March. We're not in April. We're not, going on to the end of February. We are now just going into November. We're obviously at the end of October. Today's the 31st of October. Tomorrow will be the 1st of November. And the next set of games, we've got in November, those are games now where we cannot obviously afford to drop any points. But even so, when you come to evaluate where each team is at during the time in December, during that Christmas time and the New Year's time, when obviously clubs are playing a lot of games, a lot of clubs will be re-evaluating the squads. They'll be evaluating the personnel on each team, and what obviously they want to do with each of those teams. It will be interesting to see what happens and where we will be at in that time period. But there's no need to panic whatsoever. I think we have got probably, next to City's team, we probably have the most talented squad in the Premier League. Now, here's the problem: talent will not result in points and wins. So I still think that Jose Mourinho as the Manchester United manager, at this point, does not know his best starting 11. Now, let me explain a little bit. So, the guys that we've got in midfield, if you look at our options at midfield, we have quality players all in and around the midfield area. We have Ander Herrera, we have Bastian Schweinsteiger, who just came back to start training with the first team squad again. I think Jose's realised, I need this guy, he's got immense quality and I need them to, looking at possibly bringing him back into the team. So, like I said, Herrera, Schweinsteiger, Michael Carrick, Paul Pogba, obviously, the £90 million man. He'll never be dropped. It's just comes with a price tag, I suppose. Juan Mata, obviously, in that number 10 role, just behind the striker. Just again, you look at we're looking at the wingers. You've got Jesse Lingard, Memphis Depay, who's obviously an outcast at this moment in time. I honestly am ready to start, calling Memphis Depay the signing of Memphis Depay a big bust, a big waste of money. Look, I sincerely hope that I'm wrong in this one. And if Memphis now, somehow gets a couple of games into the team and goes on to have a great season for us, oh my God. I honestly, I would be delighted to be proven wrong. I would honestly love to be proven wrong here and to see Memphis Depay go on to have a great season for us. But at this moment in time, if you look at, if you look back at when Louis van Gaal, LVG signed him, and you look at where he is right now, it's just, it's just so frustrating to think that this guy came in with a lot of potential. We signed him for a lot of money, and he's come in and he's just not taking his game to the next level. He had, I think, a couple of good games against smaller teams. No disrespect to the team. I think it was Midtjylland. I just could not pronounce the team's name. No disrespect to to that team, but that's the type of opposition that he needs to be having a good game against, regardless of who they are. But we, for the amount of money that we paid for him, we expected him to have good games all around. We expected him to be develop into a winger that was gonna be willing to make those runs where he's taking defenders on and beating them, putting quality balls into the box, and whoever's in the box is looking to latch onto those balls and finishing them. He's not done that. I watch him play, and honestly, every time I watch him play, again, a lot of fans will say, "Oh, we haven't really got the chance to watch him play that much," and it's unfair to call him out like this. But if you watch the way he plays the game, he tries to take on players, but he is constantly failing at that. He's a winger who cannot beat his man one-on-one. And I don't think I've ever said that about a United winger before. I really don't think. Even Antonio Valencia, right? Tony Valencia is now playing at right back, right? And he's been playing there for the past 3 years. And he can take guys on easily and beat them just by virtue of his pace. Just by using his pace, he can take guys on and he can beat them down the wing. Memphis doesn't have that. His pace is, nothing special. You can't really argue that, he's got great pace in him. He can just knock the ball forward like Tony Valencia and take guys on. No. He doesn't have that kind of pace. Trickery, none whatsoever. No trickery whatsoever. Finish. He has no finishing touch. I remember I watched a couple of games again under LVG, and he was through one on goal. I honestly cannot remember the amount of times where he was through one on goal and he just scuffs it, or he somehow ends up missing it altogether. It's just really frustrating, watching him. And like I said, there's nothing there to signify that this guy will go on to become a special player. And here's the thing, every time you put a lot of money for a player to come through from a league, unless, listen, this is no disrespect to any other leagues out there in Europe, but if you're coming into the Premier League, it's just a different animal altogether, right? You look at Henrik Mkhitaryan. I don't know what Mkhitaryan, by the way, has done to piss off Jose Mourinho, but he's not getting a game for a reason. I don't think that he has pissed him off, don't get me wrong, but I honestly just think that Jose is right in saying his past weekend he said that he doesn't think that Henrik Mkhitaryan was just ready for the Premier League. He's whether it's mentally or physically or just having the right mindset. And this is a guy, Henrik Mkhitaryan, who's come from one of the best leagues in the world, in the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga, La Liga, there's Serie A. along with the Premier League, you probably consider, those are the top 4 leagues in the world where every player wants to play. You've got teams like Juventus, from Serie A, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Napoli, Roma. You go to the Bundesliga, you have Bayern Munich, Schalke, Werder Bremen, etc. Big teams, big fan bases, etc. And you have, those guys, those quality players playing for those teams, and you obviously come to the Premier League and with the Uniteds and Chelsea, Chelsea, City now coming on, Liverpool, big teams again, who have got big top quality players. Those are the leagues, leagues around the world where the big players play. And when you have a big player coming across from one of those big leagues to another big league, so this in Henrik Mkhitaryan's case, you have a guy who's come over from the Bundesliga to the Premier League. You'd expect him to adjust straight away because the level of competition is just so high, and you would think that it is very similar. And for Jose to come out and say, well, I don't think he is mentally ready for this, or this type of competition in the Premier League, it was really worrying, to be honest. I mean, I honestly think that Memphis Depay is still in that same category as Henrik Mkhitaryan right now. If you look at it, Jose's come out, and said that about Henrik Mkhitaryan. If you were to ask him about Memphis Depay and why he has not lived up to the expectations that he hasn't lived up to, he would probably give you the same answer. I honestly think he would give you the same answer that he gave about Henrik Mkhitaryan. And I really don't, I honestly do not doubt Jose. I don't think he's lying when he said that about Henrik Mkhitaryan. And the reason why he hasn't played him, I honestly think, is for his own good. I really do think this was for Henrik Mkhitaryan's own good, that Jose has not played him yet, for the reason being that if he was to come out and play and put on the same level of performances as Memphis has done in the past year or so, then people again will start questioning, okay, here we go, another bust signing, congratulations, well done, another winger or attacking midfielder that we've bought into the club that just is not living up to that price tag. He's not living up to the expectations that we expected of him. And quite frankly, again, like I said, I honestly applaud Jose for coming out, speaking the truth, which I think, will ultimately serve us pretty well in the future. I think Henrik Mkhitaryan, however, he will be starting to play regularly pretty soon for us. Will he beat Jesse Lingard to a place? Look, Jesse Lingard hasn't done anything he hasn't done anything to warrant him being dropped. Let's be fair to the lad. He's for what he's been asked to do, he's done, right? I mean, against Burnley, I think he just ultimately, Jose switched him from being an out-and-out winger to a guy who's kind of more of an inside forward, where he would kind of drop into the box, expecting, balls coming into the box and just trying to attack the ball. And he done that pretty well. He adjusted pretty well. He made an adjustment to his play, and he done it pretty well. And, he had obviously a chance with the header to score. He had another shot, I think it was outside the box. So, I mean, he played pretty well, but us not getting 3 points against Burnley is not an indictment of Jesse Lingard not playing well. Anyway, I digressed. So back to Henrik Mkhitaryan, Memphis Depay. So that's the situation there. And again, what I was talking about before I even got into the Memphis Depay situation and Henrik Mkhitaryan situation. You look at our squad, as I said, we have outside the City squad, or maybe even on par with City squad in terms of talent. So the guys I just mentioned, Henrik Mkhitaryan, Jesse Lingard, wingers on the right, Anthony Martial, Memphis Depay, those guys are still technically wingers that we could use on the left, or inside forwards we can use on the left. Up front, you have Ibrahimovic. Obviously, you have Marcus. Marcus Rashford obviously is being played on the wing right now, but he can play as a striker, and we know that, obviously. And he could come in and play as a striker at any time that we'd expect that from Marcus, and I think he will eventually down the line this season. Ibrahimovic is just at such an age right now where you need to take care of him. You need to take care of his body. You need to take care of his needs as a player. So we will see Marcus Rashford play up front for United this season. As I said, I've obviously gone over the guys that we have in midfield. In terms of our defence, we have Matt Darmian. He's past 2 games he's played pretty well against I think it was Stoke, and I can't remember. I think he played against Fenerbahce, but he did play. There was a game before that he played pretty decently in. We obviously have Antonio, who can play right back. At centre half we have Chris Smalling, Eric Bailly, who's is injured right now, but he will come back from injury, I think, within a month's time, if I'm correct. We have Daley Blind, who can play there and who can do a decent job. Marcus Rojo, a lot of fans do not like, obviously, Marcus Rojo. I think he's a lad who can do a decent job. He's not the greatest centre-back in the world. He's not the best centre-back in the world. He's not the best centre-back at Man United, but he is a good backup. He's a backup, right? Let me rephrase that. He's a backup player, a good backup player. Not a good starting player, a good backup player. And he could also play at left back. Daley Blind can also play at left back. We have Luke Shaw play at left back. Marcus Rojo can also play at left back. So we're okay there, and we still have guys on the bench who are talented. We have Fosu Mensah, who we still haven't seen yet. We have another guy, Axel Tuanzebe, who is a good player. I think we will get to see him. Not many United fans have seen him, but I think we will eventually get to see him, and hopefully come in and do a good job for us. So there's a lot to be excited about with this squad, and I forgot to mention as well up front, in terms of talent, we still have Wayne Rooney playing up front. Now again, a lot of United fans might give me a lot of stick for saying, Wayne Rooney is still a player that we should be considered to play. What I'm saying is, right now, Wayne Rooney doing the role that he's doing, kind of just getting on with his business, doing what the management is asking of him, coming off the bench, trying to influence the game, coming off the bench. He had a good chance against Burnley, and he should be. People do need to look at him and say, well, you should have done better with that. It was basically the goal was begging for him. Just just hit a shot on target, and you never know. Could have gone a deflection, could have went in. He could have easily scored, right? But for what he is right now. And what I honestly think he is that Jose just wants to bring Wayne back to that striker role. I think he just wants Wayne to forget that he ever played in midfield. We have enough midfielders as it is. We do not need Wayne Rooney going back to play midfield. Let's just try to get Wayne to get accustomed to his old roots of playing as a striker. And just get him more game time back in as a striker. Let's get that that finishing touch back to Wayne Rooney's Arsenal. Pardon the pun. So it's kind of like, it's one of those things where it's just maybe a little bit of patience, and after the new year, I honestly think that we'll see an improved Wayne Rooney, because he will get game time as a striker, and more and more game time as a striker, and he will come back a better player. He will become a good backup player, kind of like the Solskjaer, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If you remember, United fans who are listening to this, you remember good old Solskjaer. He came off the bench when we needed him, was scoring goals when we needed him, and he was a terrific player for us. A lot of fans still love the guy to this day, and for good reason. He was a good player for us. So I think that the role that Wayne will eventually take up is that that kind of role, where it was him coming off the bench trying to make things happen for us. So I mean, in terms of where we're at right now, generally speaking, the game, if I just remembered, was that we had obviously the cup game, the Carling Cup, or nowadays called the EFL Cup, against City in midweek. Honestly, I thought that game was just, we did win it. Obviously, it was a good confidence boosting game, but that was a game where I thought City, played guys like Garcia in midfield, who's a kid. They played another guy at right back. He, again, that number 30 or whatever his name was. That's a kid you've got right there. So don't get me wrong, they did try to win the game. They did try to get back into the game, in the latter stage of the match, when they had Sergio Aguero come on and whatnot. So it's not like that they didn't want to win the game, but we spent the majority of the game playing against City's kind of like, City's experimental team, where it was kind of like, it was a mixture of young youth players coming from the youth teams, and players who had been starting, in the starting lineup. So Fernandinho, I think Fernando even played. It wasn't a case of, it was just Man United playing against kids, City's youth team. No, it was a mix, so that's why, I thought it was an uneventful game with a scoreline. It was good for us, obviously, to win that game and, move on to the next round. But I looked at that game and I thought, again, we didn't really create that many chances against a top quality team. and I wasn't, that kind of impressed by it. I loved getting the win over City. Obviously, it's a big rivals and whatnot. But I thought to myself at the time, I was like, well, I mean, really, are we gonna, are we over the moon? Pardon the pun, with this result? No, we shouldn't be. We should be looking at possibly creating more chances against this City team, and having a more comfortable game against them. Having said all of that, again, it was good to win, and that was the game that I forgot that Matt Darmian had a good game, and he played well against Burnley, and he played against City, and he had a good game then. So that's 2 good games for him in a row. He's making a really good case for himself, playing, to keep that spot right back. But that's the competition between him and Tony Valencia for that role. That's just an argument for a different day. Looking forward to the next game. Obviously, it's now about it's getting to that part of the season where like I said earlier, we've played 10 games. We're now at the evaluation stage. The kind of like, if you look at it, we'll evaluate the managers and the players after 10 games, then after 20, then after 30, and finally after 38 when the season's over. That's how I like to look at the season as a whole. I'll evaluate the players and how they've done after 10 games, and then 20, and then 30, and then 38. We've played 10, just to give final thoughts on the players and where we're at right now. Jose Mourinho, start with the manager. Jose, it's been a shaky start to say the least. We had a good start, right at the beginning against Bournemouth, and then against Hull, 2 good wins in a row. Against City, we got absolutely dismantled at home. We should have lost that game by 3-1. City were unlucky to score with that that De Bruyne chance at the end. To me, that game should have been 3-1 rather than the 2-1, because 2-1, to be quite honest, makes it sound like a pretty close game, which it wasn't. It honestly wasn't. The second half, I thought we kind of we tried to come back into the game. We almost did, to be fair, but again, I also thought City should have been, just out of sight by halftime. So that was disappointing. But it's been kind of it's been a bumpy road. Yeah, that's probably the best. That's probably the best way of putting it so far. As Jose, if you look at it as a long road. From the start, for the first 10 games, it's definitely been a bumpy road. We've had we've had definitely a few hicks along the way. We've had a lot of bumps in the road. Results, again against Feyenoord, for example, that's another result where you look back at that and it was such an uninspiring defeat. So it's been so and so. In terms of the players, standout players so far, David De Gea. Look, let's not even kid ourselves. He is the best goalkeeper in the world. Okay, right? And I don't even want anybody out there. I don't want fans from other teams to kind of have a go here at us for claiming that David De Gea is the best goalkeeper in the world right now. A lot of people say, about Buffon, what about Neuer? No. The amount of points that David De Gea wins for United on a regular basis, if you go back to the Liverpool game where we drew that, that game was terrible. That was an absolutely terrible game. Where I remember Sky trying to hype up that game. Red Monday. God, remember that? Anyway, back to that game, and he saved us a point. That save from Coutinho was just one of the best you'll see so far in any league this season. And if you look at goalkeepers who save their team's points on a regular basis, David De Gea is number one. And that's how you should evaluate goalkeepers. What's their true value to their team? What's Manuel Neuer's look, that Bayern Munich team, no disrespect to Manuel Neuer, the Bayern Munich team and the German national team, you can plug in, you can plug in the Bayern Munich's third choice goalkeeper into that team, and they can probably still win the Bundesliga. The Germany team, okay, right? Maybe Manuel Neuer, is obviously he does a really good job for the German team, but again, you put in guys in that Germany team. You take a goalkeeper from the Bundesliga. They've got a lot of quality goalkeepers over there, and you compare them to the German team. And you can you can see that the German team will probably still remain successful. They have a foundation there. I call it the foundation of success, and they have it. And quite frankly, they will win without him. Gianluigi Buffon, a great player, one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest football players of all time. Never mind goalkeeping. Is a legend, but he's coming towards the end of his career, and no player remains the best at his position for his whole career. Gianluigi Buffon was probably the best goalkeeper in the world from what, 2002, 2003 till up until 2012, 2013. And I think that David De Gea, I'm just looking back, on the timeline right now, I would say in my mind, has been the best goalkeeper in the world since 2014. And you can go ahead and you can have a shot at us for saying that, but David De Gea is the best goalkeeper in the world regardless, and he's been having a great season for United, as he's been doing for the past couple of years. Anthony Valencia. So just moving on to going by position and judging each United player. Tony Valencia, he's been again, nothing too great, but at the same time, nothing to rave and shout about. He is what it is with Antonio Valencia. He'll do his job without complaining, and he'll get on with it. A good player, good to have him, and we obviously need him, there, whether he is a starter or whether he is a backup. We definitely need him in that squad. In terms of who's been playing at centre back for us, we've had Daley Blind, Chris Smalling, Bailly play, centre back there. We've had Marcus Rojo playing at centre back, for a couple of games. He came in, he's been playing for a couple of games there now, because of the injury to Bailly. All in all, defensively, I think if you do not include the Watford game, which was again another horrendous game for us, and we had a lot of defensive mistakes in that game, and in fact the Chelsea game as well. If you take out the Watford and the Chelsea games, I think we've been good defensively. Shaky at times, sure. Guaranteed we've been shaky at times, but we've been decent. Nothing too much kind of to make of. It's been, again, the guys are just doing what they're asked to do, and it's been uneventful, and that's honestly all I could ask of my centre halves, is to just have a game where your name does not get mentioned in the papers. Because if you're a centre back or a goalkeeper and people are talking about you in the Monday morning newspapers, then there's a good chance that you could obviously you could be scoring from corners or free kicks or whatever, some headers, from set pieces, but 90% of the time it's because you made one error or another. So let's just keep at that. It's been okay. It's been okay. In terms of left back, Luke Shaw has had a good start to the year. Then he got replaced by Daley Blind for a couple of games. He was obviously out injured, and then now Luke Shaw looks to be back to full fitness. So it looks like United will stick with him, because Daley Blind will have to play at centre back for Eric Bailly. So it looks like Luke Shaw will get a run in the team, and I fully expect Luke to keep his place in the team, bearing in mind that obviously no injuries take place whatsoever from now until the end of the season. I can see him obviously remaining to be our first choice left back for many years to come. But he's been pretty good. I've been impressed with Luke Shaw. Good, he's been good going forward. His awareness needs to be, that needs to improve. His awareness in defending, he needs to be looking out for runs that wingers are making in behind him. The game against City in the EFL Cup, the Carling Cup, Jesus Navas, excuse me, I don't think I pronounced that right. It was Jesus Navas. Jesus Navas? I'm not sure. Anyway, I digress. In that game, he made a lot of runs in behind Luke Shaw, and he took him on one-on-one, and he was getting his crosses into the box. Luke did not have the greatest of games, but that's the side of he's still young. He's still young. I'm not going to expect. I think Luke Shaw's still 21 if he's not 20. He's either 21 or 22 years old. To be honest, I think. No, I'm going to go 21. I think he's 21 years old. But going to need to actually double check on that. We'll need to double check on that. But anyway, he will improve as a football player, as a left back, as a defender, and that he is raw. He has a lot of raw talent. There at right back. Left back for us to take care of. Moving on to midfield. Now, this is the biggest talking point for us here, and honestly, this is the part where I said earlier on in the podcast, I said that Jose Mourinho still does not know his best starting 11. and midfield has a big part of why that is. We have a lot of guys who have switched, in and out of midfield. We've had Fellaini coming in at the beginning of the season with Pogba, and then we've had now Herrera come in. We've had Michael Carrick have a good couple of games there. I think Bastian Schweinsteiger will come in, Schweini will come in, have a good few games for us in there. Obviously, once he builds up his fitness, but a lot of people have been calling for Marouane Fellaini to be dropped. I honestly still want to see the forgotten man, Morgan Schneiderlin. I really want to see him, get a couple of games for us. I don't know why Josie has just no faith in him whatsoever. I really do not know. He must be seeing something on the training ground that we us fans do not get to see. That's why he's completely forgotten about it. But he's a guy who can come into that midfield and do a good job for us. So that's him, Schneiderlin, Schweinsteiger, Fellaini, Pogba, Herrera, Mata up front. In front of those guys. And Fusu Mensah as well is actually another guy who can play in midfield. He can play kind of like he can play at right back, he can play centre back, and he can also play in a defensive holding midfield kind of role. So we have a lot of options there, and sometimes people look at a problem and say, it's a problem that nobody really wants to have, but everyone loves to have it. It's kind of those things where who are your best pairings at midfield, and Josie still doesn't know who that is. Moving on to our wingers. As we spoke about earlier on the podcast, you had Henrik Mkhitaryan, Jesse Lingard down the right. Jesse's been playing there primarily. Marcus Rashford has had a couple of games there, and I think that it'll just be done as the season progresses on. We will get to see Jesse Lingard kind of come in and out of the team, with Henrik Mkhitaryan doing the same. So obviously switching in and out, because you have cup games, you have European games, and you have the Premier League. It's a lot of games, for players to go through, and we have the capacity at United for us to switch players in and out, and I think Josie will certainly do that. He's a smart man. He's not gonna, he won't be one of those stubborn guys who'll just keep the same starting 11 for every single game. This year it's just not physically possible. With our left wingers, we obviously have excuse me, we have Antonio Martial. We also have the forgotten man down there, Memphis Depay, on the left, and again Marcus Rashford is another guy who can play as a winger on the left. He's I forgot to mention one thing about Marcus, is that I think the role that he's been playing, and it's been more of a kind of inside forward winger role, kind of like, instead of looking to take on his man and just go to the byline, he's thinking about just cutting in and trying to set up things with Ibra, down the centre. So there's a lot of elements obviously to his game, Marcus, and he's a wonderful footballer, a guy with a lot of potential. Obviously we'll love to watch him as the season progresses as United fans. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for Marcus, whether he stays on as a winger, or he just kind of stays he's backing up Ibrahimovic. We'll wait and see on that one. But again, we've got a lot of guys in that team who can, like I said, who can do a good job for us. And up front, Ibra is the main man here. He is our main striker, and he will be for the remainder of the year. His backups will be, I think, Marcus. You'll have Marcus Rashford, who will remain to be a backup striker to Ibrahimovic. If anything happens to him, then we'll see Marcus Rashford starting up there for us. Wayne Rooney will be another backup to Ibra. Antonio Martial, who is a winger, but again, if anything happens to the other guys, he'll be coming in. Excuse me. So we do definitely have options, down in every position. This team, the good thing about this team is that we don't lack quality. We are not lacking quality. And if any United fans out there are suggesting that, we need to go out in the transfer window in January and get some new guys in, forget about it. No, this is not a question of quality in this team. It's not a question of quality at all. It's a question of what is Jose Mourinho's best starting 11 as Manchester United manager. With Chelsea, he never had that problem at Chelsea. I mean, if you remember, if some of our older fans remember, when Jose first came into the Premier League as the Chelsea manager, when he won the league in his first year and in his second year, I'll just throw out some names and you will probably remember them, because they were guys in that team who started every game in the Premier League no matter what. You have John Terry, Frank Lampard, Ricardo Carvalho, Peter Cech, I think it was for a certain amount of time. You also had William Gallas in there, I think playing at left back, and you had guys. In fact, no, did William Gallas? No, I digress. In fact, William Gallas was not there at that time. I must be thinking of the Ancelotti or Scolari era. He had guys there. In fact, what am I saying? Ashley Cole, right? Ashley Cole came in there, and he was, he was there for a while. And you have other guys like I said, Paulo Ferreira. I'm pretty sure a lot of people remember that name. He played for Chelsea. He was part of that. He was a right back. That he was the starting right back for Jose Mourinho in that team. And again, you had up front, you had Didier Drogba, and you had Frank Lampard playing in behind him, making those runs into the box. So you had players that you knew they were definitely starting each and every week for you. And this is a problem now that he has for United. You can never tell who the starting players will be for United, each and every. I mean, the thing is, when I talk about a stable team, I'm not talking about a team that you can predict the starting 11. I'm talking about a team that you can predict about 7 or 8 players in. That's a stable team. The other players you can kind of, rotate in and out without disrupting the harmony of the team that much. You can have probably 2 or 3 players where you can just kind of like switch them in and out, and not disrupt the harmony of the team with that greatly. But you need to look at what he's got at United right now and the guys who he's got in, and I honestly again still do not think that he's got the players that he doesn't know his best starting 11 yet, is what I'm trying to say basically. As Manchester United manager. And will he fix that problem? I think he will. You can only look at fixing such a problem by playing, giving everybody a chance on playing most of the guys. Either whether it's a cup game or a Premier League game, which you think you can win, like ones against Burnley, but obviously we didn't win that one. But you need to look at these games and European games as well. Once you qualify out of the group, you need to be looking at giving guys a chance, and then you need to evaluate the players. And I think Jose is at that stage right now. After 10 games in the Premier League, he's played the majority of the guys that he's wanted to play. He's played guys like Fellaini, guys who might be in or out of the team rather. Ander Herrera. He won't be available for the next couple of games anyway, so he won't. For the next 3 games at least, he won't be in the team. And it's just one of those things where you have to pose the question to Jose: do you know your best starting 11? And I honestly do not think that he does. I think, even by his own admission, he will be quite frank with you. We are you will probably be assessing each and every player each and every week for United, and that's just the way it will go. I honestly think that's just the way it will be. We need to now just wait as United fans, have a little bit of patience, have a little bit of faith. And I think ultimately, Jose will come good for us, and will establish a team that we will love and will grow to obviously admire. Now, how long that'll take, I don't know. I'm not sure, but we'll probably have a look at that. We'll reevaluate again probably at that Christmas/New Year's, and once again, obviously, like I said earlier on, after 20 games in the Premier League. But in terms of where we're at right now, it's Premier League. We obviously need to improve. The Europa League, just quickly going over that. We've been okay so far. Not obviously apart from the Feyenoord game where we failed to win that game. That was incredibly frustrating. But I think, look, let's be honest, we will probably qualify from this group. And no disrespect to the other teams, it's just that I think there's just too much quality at this football club for us not to qualify out of this group. So that's the Europa League. I think we'll, like I said, we'll eventually qualify from there. The EFL Cup, we beat City, and we put a strong team against them. Whether that means Jose wants to win the EFL Cup, I don't know. It could just be that he wanted to win that game against City. That's specifically against City. We're in the quarterfinals now, so I mean, you win. If you look at it, you win 2 more games and you're in the final. So maybe Jose's mentality is that of, well, I want to be in the final, or rather, excuse me, you win one more game, you're in the quarterfinal, and then obviously you play the 2 games in the semi-final. So 3 games altogether. If you win 3 games, or if you win on aggregate, if you win your quarterfinal game and then you win in the semi-finals on aggregate, then you're through to the final. That's 3 games, for a chance to play in the cup final at Wembley, special occasion and whatnot. So why not? And maybe that's what Jose's thinking. The FA Cup doesn't start obviously till January, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But we are the FA Cup holders. We were the FA Cup champions from last season. Would I like us to, would I like to see us make another run at it? Have another go at having a chance to win the cup at Wembley again? Absolutely. Come on now. Who did not enjoy that day against Crystal Palace, where we ended up lifting the trophy that day? Look, the season wasn't so great under LVG, but I mean, it just felt good to win a trophy again. Just having that feeling of watching the team, watching your captain lift that trophy at the end of the game. It was just simply brilliant. And honestly, if you as a footballer or a football manager do not want the chance to play for that occasion or that moment, that feeling when you lift that cup, then you just don't bother showing up. What is the point? What is the actual point in showing up? And as fans, we need to kind of need to settle into this idea, this mindset now, that not every guy who's going to come along will be the guy after Sir Alex. Listen, a lot of fans have been raving ever since Sir Alex, left. When we hired David Moyes, the chosen one, we put out the slogans, and we had this belief, this is the guy, he's going to take us. He's young, he's still young, he's hungry. He seemed like the perfect protege to Sir Alex. Everything was going to be good again, and then we all knew what happened. Couldn't even finish the season. LVG. A lot of fans were thinking, he's one of the greats. LVG, he's a champion. He's won the Champions League. He's won the league. He's won multiple league titles across Europe. He's obvious, and he just guided his national team to third place finish, a respectable third place finish at the World Cup, where not many people expected him to do that well. And then ultimately it just led to uninspired football. Us playing Fellaini up front and trying, the Sunday League tactics of try to get the ball to the big man and trying to score that way. And the thing is, I'm a big believer in that results at the end of the day should be what matters as a manager, not performances, results. You can have great performances. I mean, look at the Burnley game. I would have taken a 1-0 win with 5 shots on target or whatever, rather than a 0-0 drop points with 37 shots on target. And I think most fans will accept that, right? I think most fans will we complain about it? Absolutely. We'll come if we win 1-0 against Burnley at Old Trafford with 5 shots on target. If that happens, then we'll come out and complain about it. You bet. But at the same time, we'll just be grateful that we won the game and did not drop 3 points in a game that we should be looking to win anyway. Having said all of that, so that's pretty much a wrap up of where United are right now after 10 games in the Premier League and also a couple of games in the cup in the cups and domestic and European cups. I mean it's like I said, it's nothing. It hasn't been a magical season so far. Hasn't been the magical kind of fairy tale start that we anticipated under Jose. But it will get better. I think it will get better. It's just a matter of patience. And hopefully, after the next podcast will come out, I think should be done after the next game, after the next United game. So, hopefully we can, now kind of become a team that just concentrates on winning. Looks back at that Burnley game and just look at the whole team. And Jose just looks at the whole team and say, look, guys, we can create chances. It's just now about finishing, right? We need to work on our finishing. Whether you're a striker, whether you're a midfielder making runs into the area, whether you're a winger, a side forward, whatever, we just need to be concentrating a bit. Banging them in, winning the game, seeing the games out, and ultimately, end every game on a high note. But we've come to the end of the podcast. Thank you very much, United fans or non-United fans, if you joined in. Thanks to everyone who's clicked on the link and who's been listening. And hopefully the next time I talk to you guys, it'll be all positives. Okay, right. So yeah, again, thanks for joining us and goodbye.